welcome back to Bitcoin Commando. In this video we're going to be covering the very basics of Bitcoin, and I do mean the basics. Bitcoin is probably one of the most well-known cryptocurrencies in the world. It's now up over 120% from January alone and 400% in the last 12 months. So I mean, that's some amazing growth, guys. Especially in the last 2 months, it's been absolutely unbelievable. But on the whole, what is really weird is that your average person on the street, the people that you know, the people that you talk to, still do not have a clue about what it actually is and how to use it. So do you know that if you would have bought Bitcoin for $1,000 in 2011, it would have been worth $566,000 now. So with Bitcoin, your purchasing power would have increased by approximately 56,500%, which is just unbelievable. Alternatively, if you would have bought 1,000 of, government issued fiat currency, dollars, pounds, euros at the same time, then there's a good chance you wouldn't even be getting back what you actually paid for it. Because if you take inflation into account, then it's just not going to be the same amount, is it? It's madness, isn't it? So on one side, you've got, over that period, you've had a lot of people, hell of a lot of people out there, been losing quite a lot of money. But again, and what this has shown with Bitcoin now is that you've got a small group of people, or a few people, that are earning absolute fortunes in the very same period of time. And the only difference between the two groups is where they put the money. Now, the great news, I believe it's the great news, is that you've not missed the boat yet. I said this in the second video, didn't I? That I think we're just coming into the second stage, really. So I believe it's only just started. So what is Bitcoin? Well, first of all, remember this: you don't have to be a mechanic to drive a car, do you? And it's exactly the same for this. If you can send an email, then you're perfectly qualified to use, understand, send and receive Bitcoin. We don't have to complicate it. If you can send an email and receive an email, then you can use Bitcoin. It's as simple as that. But in simple terms, it's just a computer program that allows people to easily send digital money across the internet. It's a computer program that can run on any computer, and the program, when it's permanently connected to the internet, will create what's known as hash rate. Now, basically, the computer solves problems when that computer is connected with other computers, hundreds, maybe thousands of computers across the world, then it creates what's known as a peer-to-peer network. Now, you've probably heard that before, banded around, but the peer-to-peer network, as it gets bigger, is then able to create more hash rate, which increases the program's ability to solve a hell of a lot more complicated problems within the network. By using the computer to solve these problems, the program provides an incentive to the people that are using their computer to run the program. And this is the incentive that it provides is what's known as the currency, Bitcoin. Now, this process of producing this Bitcoin is what's known as Bitcoin mining. And again, I'll talk a little bit more in detail about this in the next video. But basically, it's the process by which transactions are verified and added to a public ledger. This public ledger is called the blockchain, and you've probably heard of it many times now on the news and so on and so forth. But that's what's known as the blockchain, is the public ledger that everybody can look at and everybody's got available to them. The blockchain is also by the means of where new Bitcoins are actually released. So anyone with access to the internet, anyone that's got suitable hardware, can participate in it, and they have done since its inception in 2009. But obviously, you can imagine as it goes further, as technology gets better, then you've got more advanced technology, that i.e. the computers, there's a lot more power, a lot more speed. They're obviously they're doing it a lot more efficiently than anyone that's just got a small computer in the front room. Each computer talks with the other computers around the world. There's no special computer, there's no one computer that's in charge of the whole system. Nobody controls it. And this is something that you really want to grasp. Nobody controls it. Now, there's a total of 16 million bitcoins in existence. 21 million in total will be available. That means there's already 72% of bitcoins that are already in circulation. Currently, there's over 25 new bitcoins produced, I mined every 10 minutes, but this process gets a bit harder the less bitcoins are available. So the less bitcoins that are available, ultimately the price gets higher and higher in the future. So this is the way that the program's been put together. It's just phenomenal how it actually works. So within 3 years, by 2020 alone, they're banding around figures of between 10,000 and 60,000 pounds per Bitcoin or dollars. If the currency gets mass adoption, then they're saying that each Bitcoin will be worth over $1 million, £1 million. Could this happen? Yeah, it could. When you look at the system and you look at the way that the fiat monetary system is starting to collapse in so many different ways, then you can see so many people that's got savings. I mean, it's just going to happen. It's going to start happening en masse. And it's worth looking into. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, to be honest with you. The technology has taken us into a digital future. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. And this information is pure gold. Excuse the pun. But it's pure gold, guys, because what Bitcoin has done, it's shown many similarities in the way that it functions to gold, The most obvious being its fixed supply. There's only a certain amount of Bitcoins going to ever be produced. It's the same as gold. Gold cannot be created from thin air. It must be extracted from the ground. People have to mine it, don't they? It doesn't come from nowhere, and it's just you don't just pick it up on the street. It's in short supply, and that's exactly the same as Bitcoin.
Because if in fact you can't crack that at all, government can't get in, then everybody's walking around with a Swiss bank account in their pocket.
So again, I'll reiterate, nobody controls the system. There's no small group of suited bankers, sitting in a smoking room, deciding which direction, or what outcome is going to happen. Ultimately, every time that happens, they come out smelling of roses, and they end up lining their pockets in the end, don't they? Bitcoin, that's not the case. It's a decentralized system and nobody controls it. I keep saying it, but it's a major deal, guys. Now, personally, I didn't get any of this when I first heard about Bitcoin in 2009. I was an online marketer, I was a mobile marketer living in Ibiza, and to be honest, I just dismissed it as some kind of fad, I dismissed it as only geeks are involved, and probably they were at that point, it was a lot of geeks. People even offered me Bitcoins. I remember it at the time, I turned them down, it just wasn't worth my time, or so it seemed. How wrong was I? Throughout the years, I just avoided the subject of it, because I've made these preconceived ideas very early on about what it was all about, and I just kept putting it off and putting it off. Even when I saw it become more and more valuable through the years, again, I just kept putting it off. And you might be thinking the same thing now. You might share those views now that I had. But the thing is, the more you look into this, the more you see you cannot deny what's going to happen. You cannot deny what is happening around us in the world today. Terrorism, war, all these things can trigger an economic collapse. All these things can tip the fiat monetary system over the edge. And at the end of the day, this is not about being scaremongering. It's not about anything else apart from the fact that this is the reality. You just have to open your eyes, you just have to do the research, and you can see it, because it's just happening around us all over. In reality, when Bitcoin was introduced, you know, it was a fundamental shift in history. You know, it was, the world changed that year that Bitcoin was introduced. Why? Well, for the first time in history, really, it was the first time that a currency had been introduced without an authority releasing it, without the consent of any government. It was completely independent from, you know, those massive controlling institutions that historically have always issued currency. It's always been that way, and for the first time in history, you know, that changed, because Bitcoin is like nothing else really. It's not like anything else that we've seen before. You know, it doesn't exist physically. You know, it's a digital currency. In the previous video, I covered what money really is. You know, and it's not and never has been valuable within itself, has it? It's just simply a way to exchange things for things that you want. It's just a token that's reusable. You know, it's unforgeable. Apparently, people have done it in the past, haven't they? But you know, you can't just go to your bedroom and start reproducing, you know, the money. It wouldn't work that way. It has to last a long time, eternal, ideally. Yeah, it has to maintain its value, and more importantly, it has to carry that value into the future. And this is quite a lot to ask, especially when you've got, you know, governments that are just printing money that like it's going out of fashion, because at the end of the day, it's all about trust. Everything with regards to that is based on trust, and it's only based on a trust via a promise, which is the fiat money that we see today. You know, if we get to the crux of all of it, it is literally a promise based on trust. So, an example of that, let's look back. You know, if you were just bartering and, you know, you were a cow herder, and then someone came up to you and said, you know, I want your cow, but I'm prepared to pay you this little chunks of metal, at that point, what would you have said? You know, it would have been a bit of a leap of faith to take that little bit of metal and give away a cow that you know you've been working with for the last how many months, you know. But that was what happened when gold and silver came in, wasn't it? That's when, you know, if you think about it as an analogy, it's probably the same. You know, when the same guy that had been used to taking gold and silver for his farm of cows that he does, you know, then a guy came up to him and says, can you take this piece of paper? You know, it's exactly the same. There's going to be a time of adjustment, is really what I'm saying. There always is. It doesn't matter where you look at in history. As new things have happened, then people have had time to adjust to them. For those of you old enough to remember, then remember when credit cards, 1980s, I think they came out, late 70s, 1980s, something like that. But you know, how many decades was it before people started to use them properly, you know, en masse? People had to have time to adjust. Same for internet banking. You know, how common is it now? But just go back, you know, 10 years, people were scared of using it. You might have been that person that was scared of using it. And it's the same for today, buying online, you know, the same for mobile. It's, you know, all of this now, you know, buying online and using your mobile and going on the internet and your mobile is all common, but just go back 10, 20 years and how scary was it for so many people? Well, it's no different to where we are now with Bitcoin. Within the next 2 to 5 years, there's a very good chance that it's going to be the digital currency that's used all around the world. And there's always phases of growth. For me, like I said, we've just come into the second stage of growth for Bitcoin. You know, the third phase is the time when it's adopted en masse, you know, globally. The second stage, though, presents massive opportunities for the people that understand and get involved right now. I truly believe it, which is why, like I said, I'm doing these videos. The time is definitely now, and don't let anybody tell you any different. In my opinion, Bitcoin, without doubt, is the future of money. And really all I'm doing here is asking you to join me on educating yourself more about it. It just makes sense, and I believe it's going to be worth a hell of a lot for doing so in the future. You see, there's only one reason millions and millions of people are not using Bitcoin as we speak, and it's, as I just went through there, it's purely because of lack of understanding of the technology and a fear. It's like a fear of stepping into it. It's a lack of education, that's all it is. It's a lack of hesitance. It's hesitancy to change, and people do need time to adjust, and again, it's going to be exactly the same with this. I say again, remember how many people were scared of the internet when it started. Within 2 to 5 years, digital currency, I believe, will be used by everyone in some shape or form. It is the new economy. It's a way to send money anywhere around the world, 24 hours a day, without the fees associated with normal banking. You know, and you know what my thoughts are, based on what I've showed you, on the central banking fiat money system. You know, they are the ones that literally have had the license to print money. They are the ones that would kill anyone else that decided to do that. Yeah, it's a scam, you know, but we're all waking up to it. Bit by bit, we're waking up to it, and hopefully this is helping you to do that. So that is the very basics of Bitcoin. You know, if you like this video, please like and share with friends that you feel would like this information. There is a wealth of information on Bitcoin out there, and I absolutely recommend every single one of you to do some more independent research for yourself. In the next video, I'm going to be covering Bitcoin mining. I'm going to be covering the enormous benefits to getting involved. I'll also talk about the platform that I and many of my friends are using at the moment to leverage this information and benefit in the future. It's an enormous opportunity, guys, to create wealth for you and your family in the not so distant future. The times are uncertain for all of us. But as soldiers, then I'm sure you can take it. As soldiers, you can see the possibilities of unrest in the future, because you've seen it elsewhere in the world, more so than most people that are just walking out there. I'm not saying this is just soldiers that are watching this, it could be anyone. You know, if you're open-minded and you're open to new information, if you're seeing what's going on, truly seeing, not just lost in the matrix, then you can see that we've got problems ahead, guys, and it makes sense to start to create an escape plan for you if that situation ever comes about. So, to get started on the journey, one of the first and most simplest things to do is to set up a Bitcoin wallet. It literally takes 2 minutes. Now, there's various ones you can use. Now, I choose to use one called Zappo, but there's many to choose from, such as Wirex, based in London. It's free to join. You can get an introductory offer of 25% discount on your card, and I'll provide the links in the description for you. Open your wallet now if you've not done so already. Get on board and buy some Bitcoin. Whatever you can afford, play around with it. It just makes sense, guys. It really does. It's just like the internet. It's just like mobile phones. It's just like the internet banking. You know, you will have to use it in the future. So don't wait. Don't be a late adopter on this one. Take your time on it, but do it now. So I'll see you in the next video. Bitcoin Commando.